Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Define Tomorrow session with Polly. I'm here with Neil Fluester from Polly. Neil, do you want to tell us a little bit about your role and what you do? And you also do some interesting content on social media as well, which is how we've kind of come into contact.
Yeah, I try to be an influencer, is what everyone's about these days. Hi everybody. My name's Neil Fluester. I'm a product director here at Polly. Polly is for those who don't know, I've been sleeping in a darkened room. Polly is the coming together of two industry greats, Plantronics from the kind of headsets and speakerphone world, and Polycom, where I was traditionally from, which is a traditional video conferencing. I think most people have touched a Polycom spider phone sound station in their life. When you say, "Well, I work for Polycom," oh yeah, we use your spider phones. I'm here in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I'm based in London, and I cover our entire product portfolio: headsets, handsets, conference phones, video devices, and all of our infrastructure devices. And yeah, I do make a bit of a nuisance of myself on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. So do make sure you go and find me on those platforms and say hi.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Neil. And at Computer World, we've been a long-term fan of Poly and Plantronics. In fact, Plantronics has been a customer of ours for over 5 or 6 years around data center and things like that. So with the world changing, with Computer World certainly having a larger focus on communication, collaboration, Microsoft Teams and Zoom, it seemed a perfect relationship for us to kind of get involved a little bit more with you guys and help our customers on this journey, which has certainly been exacerbated with everything that's gone on in the world this year. That we're trying not mention the C word too much today, because today we want to make this really about giving you quick and clear advice as to what solutions may fit different types of workers with inside your business. So without any further ado then, Neil, if I kind of throw a few scenarios at you, maybe you could say kind of what your advice would be from a Poly perspective, but
Sure.
also from your lessons learned in the industry, to help those watching identify what they should be considering. And I think the right thing to do, especially because we're sat here recording this in lockdown, is to consider home workers first.
Mm.
So as an IT manager, as someone that is responsible for everyone working from home, and we know that it is probably going to be doing the hokey cokey a bit for the months to come forward, what is your advice around audio visual setup for a home worker?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think when the initial kind of lockdown 1.0 happened, we went into initial stage of what we would call sort of staying alive. You were kind of like, right, where am I going to work? Is it going to be the bedroom? Is it going to be the kitchen? Or do I have the luxury of being able to set up a dedicated space? And then obviously I'm going to need to start continuing to communicate with my team and my colleagues in the office. And then, are we going to be using Skype or Teams or Zoom or whatever platform it might be? That was the first challenge. Then obviously the audio and the video that you're going to use in that, and in a lot of cases that was okay. I've got the built-in webcam, I've got my built-in microphone and speakers, and it was kind of good enough. I think as we kind of moved through the year and we started to go, okay, this isn't going to be just a flash in the pan. We're in this for the sort of longer term. We moved into a kind of survival stage, where we go, okay, I've got my dedicated space now. I've got my laptop set up, and I'm good joining regular calls. But moreover, now in lockdown 2.0, or as you say, whatever happens in the future, we need to move into the next phase, which we at Poly call Thrive. And that's where you want to kind of say, okay, I've managed to get by with the building camera and the building mic, but I actually want to create a better experience, and I actually might want to stay at home more often. And actually, my business hasn't gone bust because everyone's working from home, and actually I don't have to communicate into an office to be able to continue my job, so I can work from home. So leveling up your audio and video device is absolutely the kind of next step, and a lot of customers are talking to us about how do they thrive and work from home and get that better experience, premium experience. So first thing obviously is audio. Audio is absolutely number one, I think, in any kind of communication technology. The ability to hear the difference between different synonyms, like hold, cold, sold, told, and bold. They all can mean absolutely different things, but if you've got a really poor audio link, it can be very fatiguing for people to listen and try and pick out, especially if you've got people where English isn't necessarily their first language on a call. So having a good audio device. The other challenge of working from home is extraneous background noises, because you might not necessarily be the only person working from home. You might have your spouse, loved one, or even your kids having to work from home. So being able to create an environment where you're not going to be disrupting other calls. And I was going to quickly do a live demo. Why not? I've got one of our devices here. If I switch my audio across um, to this device here. So I'm going to use a Poly speakerphone here, which has got our noise block technology built into it. And that's the ability to differentiate human speech from background audio. So that classic example of you're on a call and you hear someone typing away on a keyboard or eating some crisps, or the leaf blower from the neighbour's garden going, and can everyone go on mute, please? Someone's forgotten to mute their mic. So let me just demonstrate this. I got a packet. This was some lovely biscuits I had yesterday, yogurt topped rice cakes, and you can
Oh,
see,
nice.
yeah, they're very nice. So I'm talking. It should suppress that audio, so you'll still hear the rustling, but look what happens when I stop talking. As soon as I start talking, the mic opens up again and you can then hear me. So it's like an automatic mute. I don't have to worry and concentrate, am I muted? Am I not muted? I just continue on with my day-to-day working. It doesn't disrupt the people on the call. I'll switch back to my headset here. But noise block is inherent, and we also have something called acoustic fence, which uses multiple microphone elements. Again, just to allow you to concentrate on the meeting rather than the technology when you're working from home. So choose a good headset which has got, good noise cancellation, not just the noise cancellation that you hear, which a lot of the time people concentrate on and want noise cancellation in my headphones, but the noise cancellation on the microphone, because you never hear what the far end receives. So being able to give them a good quality experience, again, they might be going back into an office, you might be communicating with a team in an office, being able to give them good audio around that. The other thing is around the actual technology you use. Now, at Poly, we have different ranges of headsets. You can see them down the left-hand side here. At the top, we've got our wired headsets. Great, entry level or, cost-effective devices with a piece of copper that connects it to your laptop or your computer. Never goes wrong, never runs out of battery, always has great communication. But you might want to then move around. You might want to be able to go. I always have to answer the door to the FedEx man or the DHL lady or whoever it might be, the Amazon delivery, which we're getting lots of these days. So being able to cut the cord and be able to move around is a great thing, and also being able to switch between, say, a Teams call on my mobile, on my desktop machine, my laptop, to then a mobile call that's coming through on my iPhone or my Android device. So again, being able to use them Bluetooth or other technologies. Now, Bluetooth is great, gives you that kind of local proximity wireless communication. I can see you're sorting the Voyager Focus there, a great Bluetooth headset, and again, that can pair up to your PC and pair up to your mobile. Now, the premium wireless solution is DECT, our Savvy line. You can see down here. This is what I'm supporting here, and that's our 8220 Savvy. Now, the great thing about this is it is the range and the resilience of the wireless connection on the DECT is second to none. I work in our loft. It's a loft conversion in our house. I can go 3 floors down, make a coffee, mute, unmute on the headset with all the controls for Teams, and I get ultimate wireless flexibility. Bluetooth would cut off midway down the stairs. So if I want that ultimate capability, I want to work in the garden maybe. DECT gives us that capability on the headset. So level up your audio would be the first thing, and I guess
I
then,
think it's so important to
yeah,
to consider that audio, isn't it? Because I speak to a lot of people and they kind of go, "Oh, I don't really think I need a headset. I can hear everyone okay. It's been fine for me." But the problem is, can other people hear you okay? Are they hearing that background noise? And then sometimes when you are blaming someone else's audio for being quiet, you can't quite hear them. Is that actually because yours isn't picking up those the things in the sound there? So that is really important, I think, and should be starting to become part of the kit because if we are going to work like this, then you wouldn't go into a meeting room and deliberately talk another direction towards someone. You talk to someone, you look at them, you want the best experience possible, and we've got to continue that into the virtual world.
yeah, no, totally. I think, audio, as I say, is the number one thing, and a lot of times we only concentrate on what we hear. A lot of people use the free earbuds or the free wired thing that comes with your iPhone or your Android phone or whatever like that. and they're okay, they work, but they've been designed more for music. The microphone is generally an afterthought. It's the same with your laptop. The inbuilt speakers and microphones on your laptop device are essentially there, as to play music, to play alarms and dings and dongs. They're the spaces of a premium. You can't fit in decent drivers and decent audio outputs. And again, you never hear you never actually hear. I don't know how I sound to you. I'm hoping I sound great because I'm using a poly headset, but I don't know because I can't hear myself back. And again, that's a key thing, having great mics. Obviously, if you and again, it's also great to be able to not disrupt other people in the house. Again, if I'm using a headset. Now, clearly, if I am the only person working in the house, if I'm joining a lot of long calls, then you might want to switch out to like a speakerphone, so our new Poly Sync device. Again, if I'm on a lot of calls, using a Bluetooth or USB speakerphone is a great way to go. And again, I don't necessarily have to have a headset on all day long. And again, if I'm doing long calls, agile stand-up calls, whatever it might be, then again, you might want to switch to a speakerphone. But yeah, very good point about this. There's a great video we did actually on YouTube. I'll plug it out, where there's one of my colleagues, and he actually works in the same room with his wife. And not only again does the microphone block out his wife from bleeding into his calls, but because the noise cancellation locally, they can't hear each other in the room. It allows them to work together in that same environment. It's a great demonstration. So that's the audio. I think the next thing obviously is video. Being able to see people. There was that when kind of lockdown happened, and pre the C word, um, we a lot of people just didn't turn the cameras on. You used to see people with sticky tape on the cameras. They're always sort of scared and frightened to be seen. And I think actually it's been a great leveler with regards to enabling video and turning video on. But obviously, it's got to be good, and it's got to actually be of a value to the call. You don't want to be distracted by seeing a load of stuff going on in the background, which is why a lot of these companies are doing background blur and the virtual backgrounds now. But moreover, again, you want to make sure that if you're sending your video in, it is of a decent quality. The challenge, again, with a lot of inbuilt cameras that you find on laptops, again, the design of, say, a tablet, a Surface tablet, or a Dell laptop, Lenovo laptop, whatever it might be, it's very hard to get a decent quality sensor inside the laptop itself. If you look at the new MacBooks, they've still only got 720p sensors in the device itself, and it's a tiny little sensor that's in there. And the thing with video is it's about picking up light. So you want a decent large sensor to pick up a large amount of light to make sure that you look good. So the inbuilt cameras are never going to be that great. And actually, I use here a front light. So if I turn off my light, you can see, my face goes quite dark. I actually use a light to make sure that I'm evenly lit and that my picture looks good. And again, lighting is a huge point. But having a high quality, high resolution camera really levels up your video. But then lastly around the camera is to make sure you frame it right. We use something, and actually it's not just us, the whole world of videography and photography uses something called the rule of thirds. So you can see I'll bring up this grid here. If you take your iPhone and your Android, you'll see you can turn on a grid in the camera app. And the reason for that is you want to get the eyes of the participant in the top third. You can see mine is framed. My eyes are perfectly in this point. You don't want too much torso and you don't want too much ceiling because it holds no value. So make sure you have your camera framed properly. And again, we actually have inside our cameras, some of our cameras are Eagle Eye Cube and things like that. Artificial intelligence allows them to use facial recognition, use sound source location, and then uses this rule of thirds to make sure I'm always framed beautifully in shot for the video. So
And it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because as you say, some of the higher end laptops, and I don't know if Dell are still guilty of this, but the XPS 13 continuously wins the top laptop PC Pro magazine and things like that. And it was the device that a lot of executives went to because IT wanted them to have a Windows device, so they couldn't have the Mac that maybe they were craving. So it was that premium device they went to. But they did that thing of the camera was put down next to the keyboard because they had that infinity edge display. So all of a sudden, you've got people with laptops on desks with the camera on the desk, and you get a wonderful shot up people's noses.
Oh, the up nose shot, yeah.
Exactly, it's so difficult. So you see people trying to elevate a laptop on a pile of books or a pile of
Mm,
whatever you can find to try and get it high enough. So a good quality external camera to that home setup, taking in the things that you've mentioned, they're so important. Get your lighting right.
yeah.
Just the amount of people you see with a window behind them, so they look like they're kind of
Witness
a baddie in a
protection.
movie.
Yeah.
Or yeah, the other side of that, the witness protection kind of thing. They've been protected for their good. But yeah, no, those really important tips. So if I can move us on to another scenario now. So
Mm.
we were seeing the return to the office prior to where we currently are, and I think we're going to be picking that up quite soon.
Yeah.
Um, and I think prior to all of this happening, we were seeing an increase in huddle spaces, these kind of
Mm.
places that were a little bit more informal. Groups of people could get together quite quickly. Now, depending on where we are, vaccine and things like that, I'm not quite sure how successful they will be in terms of getting people close together. But equally, I think having lots of smaller meeting rooms where people can jump into and have a more informal meeting very quickly with someone remotely is undoubtedly going to be something that people will want to be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we looked at our office, a meeting room that we could comfortably get 14 people into. Health and safety advised that we could get 2 into it if we're under
Yeah.
the restrictions we are at the moment. So in that sense, it would make sense to us to split it into 2 or 3 rooms where we could get to 1 or 2 people in each room to have that different experience. So what would you be putting in those smaller huddle spaces in terms of AV?
Well, there's a couple of ways you can go. From an informal point of view and from a flexibility point of view, running a BYOD solution is probably the best thing, and especially now with again all these different platforms. Again, Teams would probably be Microsoft Teams would probably be your now go to 80/20 rule, but you might want to be able to talk to a supplier or a customer on a different platform, Zoom or Starleap or whatever it might be. So having a BYOD solution is probably the right way to go. We have our Studio product. You can see Studio USB up on the shelf
It's what I'm
behind me.
using here today. It's
Very,
absolutely
very
fantastic.
good. So that allows you to again level up your audio and video. It's got a 4K camera. It does all of the artificial intelligence tracking and framing and all that. It's got noise block built into it, 6 microphones, 4 speakers, but it is essentially a webcam. It requires you to come in with your laptop, your Surface, your Mac, plug in a USB cable, and it then becomes your camera solution. You've also got Bluetooth on there, so you can use it as a Bluetooth speakerphone. So again, if you just want to come in with your mobile phone and just Bluetooth pair to it and use it again as your speaker and microphone to just enhance that experience. But it gives you the flexibility that you can drive the app and you can drive the control through your laptop. And the biggest thing with that is what we call KYOG, keep your own germs. Your germs on your laptop, on your keyboard, on your mouse. Yes, you've got a USB connector that you're going to plug in. But that's all you've got to worry about. You haven't got to worry about touch controls. You haven't got to worry about other touch points in the room. Your laptop is driving the solution, and again, you're used to using that. You don't again have to train your users in the technology. Now, if you want to then take that up to the sort of next step, then we do have this. It's the Poly X30. It's an all-in-one video bar, much like the Studio USB, and you can actually use this as a BYOD, but the X30 actually has a codec built into it, and this will run native Teams or native Zoom or other ecosystems, and literally you plug in your power, you plug in your HDMI, you plug in your Ethernet, and you're good to go. This thing can be controlled via the IP network, but also, moreover, Microsoft through Teams have brought out some new technology like proximity join and the ability again to drive the application that runs on this device through your mobile phone. So again, keeping your own germs and not having to follow around your staff with a bottle of Domestos wiping down touch controllers and things like that in the meeting room. So I think if you again BYOD, go for the Studio USB. It's a great solution. Or again, if you want to go one step up, go for an X30 because it gives you again that great audio and video experience, but it has the compute inside it, but still gives you the flexibility. If you want to bring your own device, you can use this as your USB camera, microphone, and speaker in the meeting room.
Definitely, I think that's really interesting that to have that kind of BYOD offering, but also to offer kind of a Teams native that just rock up and you're ready to go kind of solution in that space. And I suppose we kind of then merge into the next size up meeting room and what we would do around that. And as you say, lots of our customers are defaulting on Teams now. At Computer World, we saw a lot of people using Zoom early on. Microsoft Teams was a little bit further behind if we go back 12 months or more. But what we've certainly seen over lockdown is Microsoft have put a lot of time, effort, and energy into it. And
Mm.
companies have also adopted the wider 365 suite. So certainly, whilst we do have some people still on Zoom, lots of people are now standardizing on Teams. So if we had a more medium-sized meeting room, more formal meetings are taking place, Teams was our default platform. Which solutions would you be recommending into that space?
Well, there's a couple of ways to go. Again, I talked about our Studio product, and the Studio is a line of products. So again, starting from the left here, the Studio USB, that BYOD solution that we talked about, again, driving the experience from your laptop. Moving into the middle, the X30, that say smaller room, sort of 4 to 6 person, which is now a 3 to 2 person with social distancing. But we also then have on the right-hand side, you can see the X50. Now, this is exactly the same hardware, same processor, same software, but just in a bigger bar. So more speakers, more input, supports dual screen. So the great thing about it is you can have video on one screen and your content you're sharing on the other screen. So you can support dual screen in that room. But again, all that smart AI and tracking and framing in those devices. And again, the ability to still be able to use it as a USB BYOD. The X50, again, a great solution. You can drop on top of the screen or screens and be able to then again run a native Teams app. Now, Microsoft have kind of broken with tradition and have actually got two elements of their Teams room system or MTR family. The first one is the MTR for Android, and that's what the X30 and X50 are based around. And again, this is an Android app that they developed and introduced in a highly developing on. It was a little bit sort of late to the party, but they're really stepping up development on there and adding things to bring that parity closer with the other platform, which is their Windows MTR, the traditional classic MTR, which uses an x86 compute, so a PC, and then a controller on the table, and then USB peripherals, the camera, the microphone, speakers, USB connected to that compute. We at Poly have a couple of options. We have the G40, which is a Lenovo compute based around a Poly chassis, a fiber optic cable that connects between the compute and the table, and then what we call a GC8. It's an 8-inch touch controller which sits on the table, and then you can plug your HDMI for content sharing into that. That again would be spec'd up for those medium-sized rooms where you're kind of 8 to 10, which are now 4 to 5 with again social distancing. It's kind of trickled down, waterfall down. So the large is now the medium's now the huddle, and the huddle's now the private in what we used to look at. Because again, you've got to provide that distancing. And one last point on that is that we actually in our analytics, in our insights tool, Poly Lens, we can actually use the smarts in the cameras in the Studio USB, X30 and X50. We can count the number of people in the room and put those into a log. And Microsoft are also introducing this in Teams as well. So through Poly and through Microsoft Teams, you can actually look at your logs and say, okay, there's a 10-seater room here, and we've actually got 15 people in it, so we need to talk to those people. Or yes, we've got a 10-seater room and it's being used now by 4 or 5 people, and we can tick the box and say that we are distancing. So again, those smarts are built into these solutions.
It's really interesting to see how it's changed and how people are now utilizing this technology. But I think it's also made the importance of it even more important. Previously, people wanted to have good boardroom technology and things like that. Maybe in the smaller huddle spaces, they were chucking a cheap camera in there or something like that, or people were stacking books up underneath. But I think we're in a position, no matter what happens moving forward now, that flexible working is now a thing.
Yeah.
People are unlikely to want to go back to having to work in the office 5 days a week, or at least without having the option. I think we're probably going to see some organizations try and enforce back to the office when it is there. but I think you will then see employees vote with their feet. That either works for them or it doesn't work for them. And if it doesn't work for you, you will go and work for somewhere that has embraced this more. So you are going to see organizations have to invest in the technology that means you can have successful, you can have productive meetings wherever you are working. No longer can you be a second-class citizen in your meeting just because you're sat at home. You should be able to play an important part in that. And clearly we've seen that at the House of Commons and everything that's happened there recently. Video conferencing been used at House of Commons, and I think more recently some of the MPs that have sadly got very bad illnesses and things like that have highlighted the need for the House of Commons to fully embrace and enable better ways for you to be able to take part remotely. So it's certainly a changing generation. So I think the only other area that maybe we haven't spoken about, but we're interested on your opinion, is with Teams being adopted more, with people being using it more, the telephony side of it, the calling side of it is something that is now taking off. And certainly me working here at home, I use all of the good technologies that you've mentioned for calling, but there's still a place, certainly in an office, for handsets.
Yeah.
And we are also seeing new ranges and new types of device coming out yet, which I don't think there's any specific thing in your range at the moment, but maybe you can talk about the trends that Microsoft are coming in terms of personal Teams devices and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, people are sort of like, why do I need a telephone? So you can see a couple on the shelf behind me, actually. The Poly, these are CCX range of phones, natively support Microsoft Teams. And people are saying, well, why do I need a telephone? I've got a headset now, and I'm used to just connecting out to my laptop, and my laptop is my telephone. But then the interesting point is, how do you call IT if you've got a computer problem if your computer is your telephone? How do you do that? The other thing is, as I think we all know, and again, computers got faster over the years, but there's always that Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday morning when it's doing a virus scan and doing something else, and your computer's gonna go slow. It's that, sorry, my computer's going slow today. Can you imagine if that's your kind of audio call, and you get that kind of broken up audio? I know a lot of
We've
people as
all been
well.
on some of those calls, haven't we?
Exactly, and again, things like Quaz and things like being able to mandate a capability of a laptop or an IT device, being able to set the configuration. I'll pick it up and grab it forward, actually, because this is our CCX 500. But you'll note this is a phone, but it has no handset. So the great thing about this is it's like a headset adapter. So you can take your headset here, plug it in, or use Bluetooth to this, and it offloads the audio processing to this device. So your laptop is free to be a laptop, as it should be, running Word and Excel and Solitaire and Outlook and whatever else you might be doing. This then becomes your dedicated audio device with Poly HD voice, with those acoustic fence and noise block capabilities that we talked about back in the beginning to stop you disrupting the call. And I either use it as a speakerphone, it's got a great speakerphone built into it, or again, pair up your headset via either the USB ports or the Bluetooth capability in this. This connects straight to your router at home. So connected up to your router, it's got a full, wired copper connection to your router then, with Quaz, managed by IT, with all of your policies in it, running Teams with all of your security policies for Teams as a dedicated audio device. Now, again, this offloads that audio processing, gives you a great experience that, again, if your laptop goes slow, can you imagine having, oh, sorry, I'll call you back, I just need to reboot my laptop, because Windows is doing an update or whatever. You never have to do that with this. Again, if you want an old school handset, again, some people like them, and certainly for task-based workers where, you're literally just picking up a call now and then, having to put a headset or wear a headset all day, again, can be quite fatiguing for some people. The other classic thing, and I've had an example of this with my spouse at home, she came up and I said, hey, do you want to listen to this? And I sort of gave her my headset. She went, oh, I don't want to wear this all sweaty. I don't want to put your headset on. Headsets are very personal devices. Handsets are way more acceptable to be kind of shared. Again, we still need to worry about sharing of germs and wiping them down. The other great thing about this is, and it was not by design, but from a wipe down point of view, that's when you can see all my fingerprints all over here. But from a wipe down point of view, that's one wipe, and that's now sanitized, ready for the next person to come in. Again, if you're going back to the office, if you're looking to deploy audio and you want to level it up, again, I love this. So this is the one I use here at home, the no handset version. There we also have our new range. I showed it earlier. This is our new range of Poly Sync speakerphones, and this is great for the hybrid worker. So it works great at home, but also works great in the office. But you can use it to charge your mobile phone, so you don't have to carry around a battery pack and a speaker in your bag. You can use this as a battery pack, use this as a great audio device. You see I've just powered it up. It's got the lighting bar in there, supported on Teams, and it pairs up directly with Teams on your laptop. And again, if you want to go into a small private room or even a huddle room, take this with you and it will level up your audio experience in those environments.
Got Sync 20 on the way to me at the moment, so
Good
really,
man, good
really
man. You'll love
excited to
that.
have a play with that. And I thought the feature to be able to charge your phone from it was really good, because we've all been at that place where we've been on a day's worth of meetings. We've been down in London for the day, and we're just trying to find somewhere to have a quiet little meeting, and then your phone dies, and you can't find a plug or whatever. You end up sat next to a kind of a pillar in a train station or something like that. So absolutely a genius feature there to be able to take some of that power. I think it's got 20 hours worth of power in it for the device, hasn't it? I read.
Yeah, it's one of the longest power
and being able
sources
to
in the
charge
world.
that phone.
Yeah, totally.
Fantastic. Well, thank you ever so much for giving us a brilliant overview of the Poly range there. I think it's a really exciting time for Poly. The technology that is being driven and the competition between the likes of Microsoft and Zoom are further kind of giving us ways to interact with the technology that is available. And certainly from my perspective, Poly are introducing technologies that have the quality that you have come to know and love from both Polycom and Plantronics, and to be able to help users be able to interact in this virtual world. So thank you ever so much for joining me today, Neil.
Yeah, thanks for letting me on. Cheers. Thanks, Ray.
If you check at the bottom of this video, if you've joined on to Find Tomorrow, we'll link to some of those products, but also feel free to talk to any of the Computer World specialists who will be able to point you in the direction for more information. Thank you for joining us.